I used to always post every single picture of every single home that, like, even the stuff that you shouldn't be showing pictures of, like everything, like more is better. And I've always appreciated architects that, like, they'll show like 4 photos or 1 photo with like a description. But now I realize like it's actually really smart because that is your currency.
Yeah.
It's like a tease.
And like contractors conversely are notorious for having horrible websites.
And horrible photos. Today on the Curious Builder podcast, we had Sara and Jeremy Imhoff from Imprint Architecture on the podcast. And it was a great episode. You're going to get lots of really heartfelt moments, a lot of stories. I think one of the things that comes out is just it's really fun to see married couples and partners that work together, how they treat each other, and how it shows up in their work. Without further ado, here is Jeremy and Sara. Welcome to the Curious Builder Podcast. I'm Mark Williams, your host. Today I have special guests in studio, husband and wife duo. I've got Sara and Jeremy Imhoff from Imprint Architecture. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having us here.
Absolutely.
Super excited.
Well, I've known about you guys for years, but we just met in person for the first time. Did I come out was it July, June? When did I come out to Stillwater to see your studio?
Yeah, it must have been a few months ago.
Okay.
So sometime in the summer. And then was it after the Rave Awards? We saw you at the Rave Awards.
Yep.
And that's when because I've known about you, but the first time we met you was at the Rave Awards.
Yep.
So I was a little starstruck.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You must have had me confused for somebody else. And you're like, oh, I don't know why. This guy, he's what a 9th grader. Well, you guys cleaned up last night because we were at the Midwest Design Awards last night.
That was fun.
And it just kept saying Imprint Architecture. You guys, 2 golds and 2 silvers.
Yeah.
So congratulations. That's pretty
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
I think they do a really good job of rewarding the local talent and design. And I know as a builder, and I love design too, I feel like there's more builder awards locally. And so it's nice to have our design counterparts because we're all one big ecosystem. And so it's like, I've been telling our builder boards, like, I want more awards for our design partners. And so I just feel like all of us need each other to do our job. So it's like, why aren't we all sort of supporting each other more loudly and broadly?
Sure. Yep. It was great. And we lucked out because we got the 2 remaining seats at a table filled with amazing, talented architects and our friends and colleagues. And so it is fun. It's a great event to be able to congratulate everybody and see what everybody's working on.
Cheer each other on.
Yeah.
Which, we don't get that chance to do it that often. So it's nice to, and then see what everybody else is working on and all the creativity.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big group. I think there's 1,000 people in the room.
Yes,
is that what it was? I mean,
it's
a big room.
Huge. Did you go last year?
I did.
Okay. We didn't go last year, and we went the first year. And was this the 5th year?
I don't know.
I
I think I've gone 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, it's the 5th year. We went the first year and the 3rd year, and then now the 5th year. And to see how big it's gotten, it's wild.
I think they do a great job of, the hosting and, shout out to Midwest Design. I think they're doing a really good job with it. And so
definitely.
I think like anything of growing pains, they continue to expand and try to, you can't please everyone. So it's like you always hear a little bit of the grumblings of like this, that, or another thing, but you just continue to evolve and get better. Yeah.
But they did great. And Jeremy said so many people are recognized there that they do a great job of spreading love.
Mm-hmm. So we're doing a little something new. When I interview the person I interviewed before you, and you'll get a chance to leave your question. You get to leave a question for the next guest, and we start with that.
Oh my gosh, that's fun.
So
they're not gonna pop out of this thing behind you, are you?
Surprise! That's like Alpha on a Shelf, very dramatically. What is the most difficult thing you've overcome in your career? Coming in hot with some heavy.
Most difficult thing to overcome in our career. The most difficult thing I remember experiencing was just getting through 2008 and the years after that. I mean, that was just a very stressful time. I somehow managed to keep my job through that whole time frame. A lot of people I worked with didn't, and I felt very fortunate that I was able to make it through unscathed. We went from the company I was with at the time, we went from 2 floors of office space down to 1, and around 60 to 70 people down to 20.
Oof.
That was rough.
And that was before you guys met and were married as well?
No, we were married at the time. Sara actually worked there briefly on contract.
Yeah. So we were married in 2002, and this was probably around 2008 or 9, because it took a while for things to trickle down. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to the love story in a little bit. What would you say was your hardest part, Sara?
Oh my gosh. I mean, the hardest part is just building the business and getting people to believe in you, I guess, is just.
Would you count yourself in that? Did you have trouble believing how talented you were as well?
Sure, definitely. But definitely. I mean, you just get more courageous as each client signs on the contract bottom line, and you get a little bit more confident, and then you get more courageous. And so, yeah, but definitely growing the business in general and just getting amazing clients, it's always hard just starting out. You've got to get those first few projects under your belt before people can see and trust that you're going to do amazing things for them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to provide a little background on that. So what I love about Sara, and we always kind of feed off of each other, like our strengths. I always tend to be a little bit more on the conservative side as far as the next step. What's the big picture down the road? And I always want to hold back. Sara's always good about jumping in and making it happen. And around that time, and we've already had a number of things that had happened in our lives together where I started developing a trust for this, and we're going to go buy a house, and I wasn't even done with grad school yet. I'm like, what? My mind's not even there yet, but it worked out great. And so after experiencing this a number of times, we get to a point where we're having our first baby, Jonah, who's now 16, and she's like, I am ready to move on from my employer and start doing my own thing.
Well, that was in 2008 at the time when everything was slow, but we didn't have Jonah till 2010.
Oh, yeah, right.
And when things are slow, sometimes you just have time to think about what you want to do next. And so you never want your employees to be slow.
Yeah.
But I had time to think about it. And I was like, it's not going to be easy to start a business with a brand new baby. So we started Imprint, or I did, in 2008. And then Jonah came along in 2010.
Yeah. Right.
So we were thinking a little bit about foreshadowing. The economy was doing horrible things. It wasn't
start
a great
business.
Yeah, it wasn't a great time, but Jeremy always throws full trust in these crazy, wild decisions, and it's panned out.
It's funny, it just came to me now, and I think it's actually my dad's superpower, and I've always related it to physical ability, but I think it's actually a mark of entrepreneurs as well, which is comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think, kind of what your story is even kind of resonating with me is like, I'm sure if we look back and you think about risk and how you value risk today, I don't know, do you feel like it's different, or are you just not aware of the risk? Sometimes isn't it, you look back and you're like, wow, we really went out there, like in a way that, but sometimes not knowing what the risk is, or maybe did you feel like
No.
do you feel like you even knew the risk? Like I look back at my career and I'm like, man, first of all, I was 23. I wasn't married, no kids.
Yeah.
Like now it's laughable. It's, oh man, what do you
No,
know,
we had
you
no
know?
safety net.
Right.
We had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
We didn't know what we didn't know. So we just
Went.
sounds good. Same reason you go backpacking across Europe and sleep in a hostel or whatever. I would never do that now.
But I think that's the creativity side. I mean,
Yeah,
it just sparks incredible amount of creativity.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they're, getting comfortable with risk. I don't know if I'm ever fully comfortable with it because I'm always thinking about what can go wrong.
Yeah.
And now we have employees. And so my mindset goes to, okay, we got to keep these guys busy.
Yeah.
They have lives. They're
Mm-hmm.
trying to support their families. And so that's like a whole nother layer. That was a big jump for us, is when we were getting enough work where we could hire our first employee. And that kind of, we were just worried about ourselves up to that point.
And it's like, we can always just go figure out how to drum up some work, even if it's not the most glamorous. But when you have a team that's around you, you want to make sure that they're enjoying what they're doing and having a good time. So, yeah.
I think, sometimes I think when I was talking to someone recently about, low spots, I think low spots precede, the high spots. For myself, I think of like, we had the last couple of years were really slow actually, but it was during that slow time that we really dug in personally on like the Kirsch Builder, the collectives, the retreats, all the stuff that I'm doing now. And I've had a couple of people come up to me and say, this, that, and another thing, like, how do you do this? Or how did this happen? And it's like, honestly, it was because I didn't have a bunch of other things going on. So I had a lot of free space and free time. And so if you're always really busy, you don't have that time to innovate and self-develop. And I don't know, one of my questions to you is, how do you continue to evolve and sort of push what the next level is for yourselves? Is there been things in your career that like either, real low points that made you evolve and get super scrappy that sort of led to a new growth? Or how do you, because you've been in business now for 11 years or 15 years,
Yeah.
since since, well, no, longer than that.
Yeah.
Because Jonah was born in 2010, so that's
so
easy math.
2008.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost 20.
Yeah. It's been a while. It's been a hot minute. I think, I think it's to try to push ourselves into new boundaries. It's all baby steps. So you don't really realize you're there until you're there. And, there's small goals that you'll set or that we might set in our head, not really verbalizing or thinking about it. But maybe the first goal was like, let's see if we can get a project that's over $1 million or something. And then pretty soon the bar is higher than that. And then it's higher and you're like, wow, how did we get here? And so I think it's always, just setting those little tiny milestones. And then eventually you get to a point where you're like, wow, it happened. So in terms of challenging design wise, I mean, we're just always looking at architecture all the time and just in tune with what our colleagues and friends and people out in our Seattle base are doing. And we see their work and it's awe-inspiring and admiring. And so when we try to work on new projects, we're always trying to think outside of the box. What haven't we done yet? What might be interesting here? Let's push the boundaries a little bit.
Yeah, we usually, with each client early on, we'll develop a couple of schemes. Starting out, we really listen to them and what this house or building or whatever we're doing is for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really stress the importance of that. We want them to send us images of what inspires them, tell us what inspires them. And a lot of that gets built into the design work. And then off that feedback, we usually develop a couple of schemes that can start to tell that story.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes one of them will push the envelope just a little bit, maybe more than the other. Maybe one's a little more conservative and one's a little bit more out there, because you never know how they're going to respond to a design. And sometimes maybe they see something in both that they want to combine. But I think it's just an example of where I feel like that's where sometimes we push the envelope, where we create something really unique, designed to and cater to them.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, so the clients are striving that, like driving that creativity a lot, because we use the example a lot about our Driftless Bluff project and our client who wanted the archtop door. That was her dream, was to have an archtop front door. They also wanted modern architecture, so we were trying to figure out how to accomplish that.
Well, yeah, blending that idea with a modern Scandinavian style house. And our initial reaction in our heads, we didn't say it out loud, was like, okay, how are we going to do this? This is going to be a challenge. But that really pushed us. We're like, okay, we can probably figure out something here. And it became a main driver for the design.
I mean, one thing I think you do very well, and I think actually the field of architecture does an excellent job of this, is storytelling. And I feel like lately, the last couple of years in general, in terms of marketing, we see, I know for sure, like I love the word brand. I love storytelling. And I didn't realize that how much I loved it. I've always loved stories, but now I incorporate into everything that I do. But I feel like architecture, and I know it's on your website and how you guys convey, but it's like the home has a story and it seems like what resonates with the clients that you're designing for and that we're building for is somehow you're architecturally able to capture the story of who they are as people or the lifestyle that they want to live in this new home. And this home sort of takes shape around that story. And it provides a foundation piece that you sort of can design, kind of like a keystone around the whole project. Is that kind of an accurate way to describe of like how storytelling works?
Yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely. And even with that, like your Honey Hill project, it has a personality just because it has a name. So it takes on a life of its own. And that's like a lot of architects have a name for their projects or this or that. And it's part of the story. It's a character in that story and the main focusing element.
Mm-hmm. What we got to go back to, and we should have started there, but your name Imprint, I know the story, but for the audience, how did you come up with the name Imprint? Because I love it on 3 levels, but I'll let you sort of tell your story of how you came up with Imprint. I'm much more impressed with your name than maybe you are. I just think it's a really clever. I love clever
that
word.
You love this name because we told you that in the past when we talked about it that we thought about scrapping it number of times, but it has I am in the beginning, which is the start of our last name, Imhoff. But we also didn't want to create a business name that couldn't encompass a whole team of people. And we wanted to think a little bit about maybe somebody wants to be an owner or buy in. Jeremy wasn't a partner at the time. So we didn't know.
You were married, but he wasn't a partner?
No.
Dude, you had to earn it.
I did.
You had to earn it twice.
On paper he was, but but no, so we just didn't know what the future of the business was going to hold. And so we wanted it to encompass a little bit of our last name, but we didn't want to put a last name on it. The other aspect is the imprint of it all, which is
leaving your mark.
Exactly.
And whether, just in the creative process, creating something creative, unique, and that resonates.
Yeah.
I was going to also say, in regards to imprint, the other thing I like about it is it makes it less about us we're kind of already relaying that information, but it's making it less about us. And again, going back to the client, it's about them. And even the imprint mark, it's for them. And so it's not about Sara and Jeremy Imhoff designed this.
Yeah.
It's that collaborative process with everybody involved.
Well, I always say when we're designing with a couple, it's like, it's a prototype. You're never going to have this team together, meaning it's never going to be the same site, same client, same designer, same builder, same architect. It's never going to happen ever.
Right.
Even if you had all the other things, it's a different site. It's
Yeah.
not like you're not going to build the same house in the same place. It's always going to be different some way.
Yeah.
And so, I always tell all our partners, including the clients, because they are a partner. I actually think building a spec home is really hard. We're doing one right now. And the whole reason I created the brand around Misa Hus was Misa is my client. She is the philosophy that we run the filter through. And for me personally, I need like an object or a person or a thing to react to for me to be my creative self.
Yeah.
And so, I guess in this case, it's an imaginary being.
I love that. Oh, that's great.
And so,
there's definitely a personality there, which is what we just talked about. So it's not just a run of the mill cookie cutter, copy and paste house.
It's definitely harder to be. At least we found when the less you have to respond to, having this big open landscape is a lot harder to design something within. When you have neighbors and other things to a primary view
But as a spec house, even if you don't have a client that's going to buy it, you have to have Misa, to tell you
what to do.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors. I've used Pella for 21 years as the exclusive window company on every one of my builds. When people ask me who I trust for windows and doors, it's Pella, every time. Their craftsmanship, their innovation, the top-tier service make them a no-brainer for any custom home builder or designer who demand the best. Whether you're designing something bold or building something with timeless elegance, Pella has you covered. They're also the only window company that has a lifetime warranty on all of their windows. I've gotten to know all of their people at Pella Corporate, as well as locally here at Pella Northland. I'm proud to call them our partners and our friends. Visit Pella.com to learn more and connect with your local reps today. For more information, you can also listen to episode 1, where I interview the Pella Northland founders, as well as episode 109, where we talk all about their latest innovation with the Steady Set window. I've kind of been using this line lately that if you build a house for everyone, you sort of build a house for no one. And I don't like that.
Right.
Because I'm so used to being, like, I'd like to think I'm really good at building, like if I was building you a home and you're not architects in this scenario, I'd be really good at extracting from you. And we all are. I mean, that's our job. We're really good at asking questions to sort of dig into what do you want? Because a lot of times people don't know. They find it a little bit daunting.
Sure.
How are you going to get the, and we're just responding to their answers.
Yeah.
And there's no wrong answer. Like every time they give us a response, that's like one more touch point for us to sort of create upon.
Yeah, absolutely.
What, how did you guys walk us through the love story a little bit? How did you leave an imprint on each other before you first met? Because I just love the idea that we've had a few other people that Jamie and Morgan Mauder are builders. They were dating and they started a company while they were dating. They weren't even married.
Gosh,
I was like, that's
crazy.
next level dating seriousness. But like we're in the, because you were in grad school and you guys had been dating for a while, or like?
It was actually undergrad.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were at the University of Minnesota, and every year I would get my friend usually a CD music. He's obsessed with music, and so I went to the music store, got a CD. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna dress this up a little bit. I'll go get a card and make it a little more serious, formal birthday gift. And I walked into this card store on campus in Dickeytown, and
Campus cards.
Campus cards, yeah.
Anybody remember it?
Picked out a card, and then I went to go check out, and this beautiful woman shoves this other girl out of the way and starts, like, I immediately noticed, like, something weird's going on here. And she starts talking to me, and I immediately recognized her because obviously we'd seen each other on campus, but never had classes together, didn't have a studio together.
Jeremy was a year ahead of me in
Yeah.
school, in undergrad at the U of M at the architecture program.
So yeah, so we talked. I think we were talking for about 20 minutes before you finally checked me out.
Yeah.
I paid
Oh,
for
so
my
you were
card.
so you were working there.
I was working
Yeah,
there.
sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
add
Okay,
that
I thought
little
you just
bit.
like budged in line to like, wow,
Yeah.
Jeremy, you really had it going on. Like,
No,
wow,
there-
I've never had a woman like jump in line to talk to me. That's next level.
I don't even know who else was working there, but she was working the cash register, and I just knocked her out of the way so that I could talk to Jeremy. And then I asked for your phone number,
Yeah.
and then I never called.
Yeah. So then I can't remember if it was a week or later. Or
I think it
2
was like
weeks
a week
I think
later.
it was a week later.
Same time.
Same time of the day. I made up an excuse to go back in there. It was close to, I think it was like 3 weeks out from Mother's Day.
So this time he was
Quite an
buying
excuse.
buying a card for Mother's
Yes.
Day.
Yeah.
And anyway, so then I saw her and talked to her again. And this time she gave me her number. And
Yeah, this is pretty good that you actually came back because I didn't call you. So
Yeah.
nowadays,
Why didn't you call?
I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. What was
I mean, it's pretty
like?
gutsy to ask for his number and then not
Right.
to do anything.
I know, but then gutsy to come back.
yeah.
Because maybe who
Right.
knows what you could have been thinking about. Why didn't she call? I don't know.
Yeah.
That was back in the day
Yeah.
before somebody could be ghosted, I guess, on a cell phone.
Yeah,
But
That's so funny.
but no, so then we went out on a date, and then neither one of us had a vehicle. So I was over by Santana's, which is near St. Anthony, Maine, and we walked over there, and that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Procna's, you probably don't know. I don't know if you know any of these places, but they
no,
don't
but
exist anymore.
I went to the U of M. I just
You
didn't.
did? What year?
I graduated in 2003.
Okay.
Yep.
Where did you stay on campus?
I was on West Bank. Can't remember the name of the place, right? Yeah, I'm blanking on the name of the
Okay.
place. But then I was at Sanford on the west side for a year, and then
Okay.
we were in Seven Corners for a while.
Okay. Did you play sports when you were there?
I played water polo.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
cool.
Yeah, and then I was just I had my for big school, my world was pretty small. It was just like 4 people I hung out with. I didn't really, the social butterfly that I am now. I just went. I just was a lot. It wasn't that I was any different. I just had 4 really good buddies, and we just kind of did everything
Yeah.
together. So we didn't really wander around, and I wasn't really into the night scene or anything like that.
Yeah, well, we never left campus because we didn't have a car. So
Yeah.
all we knew about was the little St. Anthony, Maine area, which is a beautiful, fun space. And then we moved and we went to Seattle. So we don't really know any places.
So you graduated.
around.
You went to. So at this point, you're obviously pretty serious. Were you married at this time?
No. So we had only been dating for a year. Jeremy, a year? And then we moved to...
More like a year and a half before we moved. I
Yeah,
think.
then we moved to Seattle, but we didn't live together. So Jeremy got into graduate school. My plan was maybe I would apply once we lived there. I would get in state and then try to apply. And so Jeremy moved on campus and went to the University of Washington, and I got a job and I was working. And then we ended up getting engaged, and then we got married in 2002. So we met in 99 and we got married in 2002, and yeah, the rest is history. So
What do you think that it seems like there's a strong influence between Washington and Minnesota? I always feel drawn to their architecture, and there's a lot of Washingtonians here.
there are, yeah.
Why do you think that is? I've always been told that it's kind of like it's almost like a sister city.
Yeah,
Do you feel that?
I do. We met a few people from Minnesota, but I would say a lot of people in Washington that we met, they were from other places. Like my really good best friends that live there, one's from Maine, the other one's from North Carolina. There wasn't a lot of people that we met that through school that were locally from Washington. And so we did meet a lot of people from the Midwest as well.
California
And
yeah, pretty much everywhere.
Wisconsin too. Yeah.
Have you, now that you've moved back here and, just to get this back more entrepreneurial, have you found that a lot of your clients, how have the relationships that you forged? Well, you were there for 15 years.
Yeah.
And so you came because you have your license in 3 states, right? You have it in Washington, Wisconsin, and in Minnesota.
Jeremy's in Minnesota and mine's Washington and Wisconsin.
Yep.
And probably Colorado maybe because we got a project there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the need? So like obviously you can be a home designer or an architectural designer or an architect, and they all have different. Well, only architecture needs a certified license, correct?
Yeah.
So what would be the need or to be? So you're an architect, obviously in 3 states. Why would you need your architectural license? Let's say in Colorado versus like you obviously doesn't change your skill level.
Yeah,
It's just a licensing
you
thing.
don't. It's really, it depends. If you're doing a commercial project, Jeremy stamps everything for Imprint in Minnesota, and we've worked on, we have a funeral home going, we've done a brewery,
distillery, well,
country club, a few things like that. So commercial work.
It's more of a commercial application that you need it.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. 'Cause
residential
we don't.
Residential, as far as I'm aware, you don't unless is it over
a certain square
I
footage.
thought it was
but
over 5,000 square feet at some point in time. But
In Minnesota?
I don't know. I don't
know about
I'm
Minnesota.
not sure if Minnesota that applies. I know Washington State, if it's over a certain square footage, you need to stamp them.
Yeah. But also there are different jurisdictions. So in Washington and Seattle, if you're permitting there, you need to stamp your drawings. Whereas in like an architect needs to stamp drawings for residential.
Could it be a third party?
You can have a structural engineer. So most aspects of residential architecture, you just need a structural engineer to stamp.
Correct.
And that's it.
That I'm used to. I
Yeah.
mean, we did that for a long time before we've had
Yeah.
architects.
So, and I think getting licensed or going through that process in any state, you have to take all states are different. So I digress in that. But I took the AREs, which is a nationally recognized licensure process that people take for these standardized tests. And I think if you go through that process and you become an architect in a state, it just provides a clientele, somebody who doesn't understand what you're doing or maybe what the process is. They might say, oh, well, they've gone through some education piece or some testing requirement. And so maybe it makes them a little bit more knowledgeable. I wouldn't necessarily know if agree with that, but maybe that's beneficial to people if they see that you actually have a registration when they're looking to hire an architect.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious.
Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah.
And I totally get it from a financial standpoint as you set up other businesses or attract other clients in different states. I mean, it seems like the one thing I've always really admired about our design community, both architects and interior designers, is the ability to work outside the state,
Yeah.
I'm working with Oho Interiors on Misahus, and they've got 3 people here in Minnesota where they're based out of, but Melissa and another are in Colorado. So they kind of handle the rest of the country, and there's a Minnesota base. And it seems like one of the questions I'll ask it to you is what percentage of your work is Minnesota based versus outstate?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I've thought about this recently, but it has been like almost 50% Wisconsin these days.
I'm doing the math in my head of the projects we have going on. We've got a number of projects in Wisconsin right now, at least 5, maybe 6.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Is that based on proximity because you're in Stillwater right on the border, or is it because you've done a few and they've sort of just kind of led a seeding pattern?
Yeah, I think people find us on a Google search. I think it's all of the above. People find us because of proximity, but then they also find us on a Google search or those things. But we have one up in Bayfield, and we have one as far south as Oshkosh.
East.
Sorry, east. Thank you.
Oshkosh. And we went as far south as the Madison area. Yeah.
So and then a bunch in between. So yeah, it's interesting. So Wisconsin, yes. Minnesota, yes. All over Minnesota. Down Rochester up to Grand Marais, and then now Colorado. So really we're open to working anywhere. And the one great thing about the pandemic that everybody can maybe relate to was the ability to be able to work from anywhere, which is now everybody's pretty great at doing that.
Yeah.
Forced practice. Now everyone's really good at it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny. What is the most challenging thing about owning a business with your spouse? Like, do you find that is it always on? Do you have to set boundaries at home? Is it just really enjoyable so that it doesn't really become an issue? How have you navigated that? Because you said 2 children?
3.
3 children.
Yeah. Yep.
How have you guys navigated that?
We were always talking about it. I don't know. We're just always, when ideas pop in our head, we immediately start talking about it. It's always a continual conversation in our household. We don't ever turn it off, I don't think necessarily. Sometimes that might not help. We're like, okay, I just don't want to talk about this right now.
Or the kids are like, can you please
yeah,
stop?
the kids
Like,
usually
stop
start
talking
complaining.
about architecture. But I was going to say too that I almost don't see a challenge. I only see things are easier because we're in the same boat with everything. Like, we have one bookkeeper for both of us. We have, one set of taxes for both of us. We have one set of, we know what's going on. We can download. When you were working for other companies, I would often download information onto Jeremy, and he's like, oh, my brain's already focused on these other projects. But now we are in it all together. So in a way, it's almost less work, even though it's a lot of work.
We've got a helpmate. I mean, you've got someone that's basically
Yes,
handling
yeah.
the load.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I was working for my last company, or just even before we started working together, I think we'd probably get in more arguments back then because, yeah, again, we weren't doing the same thing.
We were also tired because we had 3 small children.
Yeah, that too. That kind of probably had a factor in it.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I don't see a lot of challenges. I know we run into a lot of people that say that they couldn't work together with their spouse, and I can totally understand that. I think that we've been married for so long. In the beginning, when we worked on our house in Seattle, when we remodeled that, there were tons of arguments on that. But we've learned how to work together, and now we just divide and conquer.
Yeah, I mean, one of the rules we kind of established when our first kind of project working together on our own house for 6 to 8 years, I can't remember the actual time frame, very long time. Early on, we would get into more fights about what we were going to do with our house, just trying to flush out what the final design was. And then Sarah came up with this idea. She's like, okay, one of us doesn't like where this is going. Let's just go back to the drawing board. We'll scrap both ideas. If you don't like it, I don't like it, then there's probably a better solution out there. Mm-hmm. And there was. And every time we went through this process, we learned it got better. And that helped us. I mean, professionally, it helps to push yourself out of your comfort zone, what you're used to, and then the work gets better. Mm. So carrying that mantra through, we kind of learned how to work together back and forth, and in a very positive way. And now we've done it twice. We remodeled our house, and then we built a new house. And just going through those 2 processes, I think we've kind of are stuck with each other now.
Yeah.
We just.
But it's also good too, because in terms of our business, what's good for you is good for me, and what's good for me is good for you. And so we both want each other to succeed because that's the only choice we have. Mm-hmm. So it's also, we love each other. We're best friends. And so when we need to talk about issues or something's weighing on us, we have the other person to help with an answer, a great solution, or an idea. So it's been good. Yeah.
And we also really trust each other's opinions, which is huge too. If Sarah says she doesn't like something, I'm like, I gotta rethink. Something's not quite right here.
And likewise too. Yeah. So that's good.
No, I think what I love hearing back and forth is, like, I remember someone describing, more rather than a husband and wife, but it was, a designer, architect, a builder, and they just talked about a healthy tension, how it was really good for the project. And what you're describing a little bit is that you're both, I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, you're both better architects, you're both better people, and you're both better at entrepreneurship because of each other. Yeah. And it doesn't make it easy, but it does make you better. Is that accurate?
100%. Yep. Yeah, because one of the wonderful things about this is that Jeremy can be brutally honest with any design that I have, and I'm not going to hate him forever.
Briefly.
Maybe for a hot minute. But we have that closeness where you don't have to worry about what are they thinking? Are they going to be mad at me if I say this? What's happening? Where you're able to just be totally brutally honest.
You had a quote where you were talking about empathy, and how it shapes architecture. Just hearing you guys talk to each other, obviously you have a high degree, as people that, love each other and is married to each other, you would obviously be empathetic towards the other person, whatever they're feeling. But how do you use that sort of empathetic power in design with, let's say, a client? How does it inform your work?
Yeah, that's a great question too. Because we're married and we understand this, it really helps with our clients as well, because they come and they sit at the table with us, and they might have an argument or a discussion about things that they like or don't like, or somebody wants this or somebody wants that. And we've been there, we've done that, we've had that same argument, that same discussion, or that same excitement about the process, or, oh, we both love this, or the same discovery. So we've been there. And I think being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes definitely helps with the empathy piece and helps you relate to what they're going through, because we've already been through that as well. And even if they're not married, or even if it's just a single client, that's okay too, because they often want feedback and they need that Misa or somebody to have, bounce an idea off of, yeah.
Well, I think that, the land, I always go back to the land. The land informs so much of not only the architecture, but honestly everything. It's like, it's not another thing. It's like one of the main things that you're sort of working around. I love the way that the land can sort of dictate and help shape it. We need these touch points. Versus like a blank sheet of paper, I have to imagine. Is it hard? I've always sort of marveled at architects' abilities to, design and repeat designs, because sometimes when I get something in my head, it's like, that's what I see. And like, I'm sort of like fixated on that. Sometimes it's hard to break that mold and to start again. Is it hard to sort of mothball an idea and get rid of it so that it doesn't impact the new work? How does that process work?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
You had that, Jeremy.
He's like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, but you just had that recently where you're working on a design and working on it. And if you're working on it for a week or something, maybe we need to just wad it up into, throw it in the trash and start over, right?
Yeah, in one instance, that did happen recently. We just tossed it. I'm like, okay, we have to give up on this one. Yeah, I'm remembering which one you're talking about.
Yeah, but it's true. If it's too hard and if you're working on it too much, then maybe that's not the right solution or the right answer.
Yeah.
I have to imagine that there's some designs that just like pour out of you and it's just like, super easy.
Yeah, in some instances, it just comes right away. Recently, we worked on one project. I think we spent half the time we normally do on that one specifically.
Mm-hmm.
It just the site and what the client wanted just brewed ideas instantly, and it all came together very quickly.
Yeah.
Other times it's more challenging, and then sometimes it's just because, like for instance,
the site that you mentioned, so we have multiple projects with challenging sites, but one of the projects literally had a cell phone size of buildable area.
Yeah.
And so we had to figure out how you guys were going to go ahead and be able to build on this. And there's a lot of issues with the site. So if you get a challenging site, yes, that's a hard project to unpack. Yeah.
Exactly.
In the end, though, I always think of the value. Someone has to take the risk. Someone has to trust somebody. You have to trust yourself. Someone has to trust it financially.
Yes.
But I drove by, so one of the things that, and I gave you guys one when you came in, but we make our client boxes to give to partners that we want to work with, that's being you,
so
as well as our past clients and things like that. And one thing I really enjoy is it takes me about 45 days to visit every one of my past clients and hand deliver it. And
oh my gosh.
I go into their home, I hear a little bit about where they are, we catch up. Some of them knew me before I was married or had kids. And so it's just it's one of the things I love about our business is how relationship driven it is and how deep it is. But where I'm going with this is I drove by a client's house and I was like, oh man, I remember this one. 3 variances, super difficult build, incredible climate in the area. It was in this town. And it's like, I was like Darth Vader. I wanted to be Luke Skywalker. Everyone was like, builders are bad, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, the house is beautiful. And it's easy to see it at the end. You're like, well, everyone's like, well, of course, that's great. I'm telling you, well, I saw it at the beginning and it was not a pretty picture. And so, but you're just glad that you somehow got through that process and like look at what happens. And I wonder, just asking you guys, like, are there projects you look back and you're like, wow, that was so difficult, but now you look back and you're like, wow, that was an incredible project to be a part of, and I've grown so much as a person, business owner, as well as an architect because of it.
Yeah.
Definitely. I've had a lot of those experiences. I mean, the one I immediately think of actually isn't even part of Imprint. This was before when I was working. I used to work on not only houses but also much larger projects like schools, and what else did I work? And larger commercial projects. And in those instances, you're working with a lot of different people, a lot of different interests. Especially like schools, you got to each class is set up a little differently. The music department, and getting all their input, absorbing it, coming up with a solution that everybody's happy with is extremely challenging.
Yeah.
And then when you're all done, and then there's also the financing, making sure everything's coming on budget, because it's very limited. They've got public funding. They don't want to go over that number. And so when you get that done and then the kids are using it and you see it and you're like, wow, we did it. We pulled it off.
Yeah.
So,
That's
and
really
we
cool.
have those instances with some of our projects we're working on right now. I mean,
Yeah.
Sarah's already describing the one that's in progress where we have a postage stamp to work with. How are we going to get this, convince the jurisdiction to allow us a variance to modify this to allow it to work? And
Yeah. But so that part's challenging,
Yeah.
and there's definitely always challenges with everything. But I'm sure that you found, so now, like your experience with this project that you got multiple variances on, now on your next project, if something comes up, you're probably like, oh, we got this.
We're happy to announce that on March 20th, we are running Sauna Camp back for its second annual event. It's going to be out in Lake Independence. It's going to be a half-day event. We're going to start with a 1-hour podcast with 3 endurance athletes, someone who's climbed Mount Everest, and the creator of Hostage Tape. We're then going to have 2 hours of sauna and cold plunging in between. We're also going to have Himalayan chocolate from Legacy Chocolates, a good friend of mine, and a chocolate tour from St. Paul. And then we are going to end with FUMO, which is, I like their tagline, in smoke we trust. So if you're interested in community, if you're interested in learning some new experiences and really diving deep on your wellness, we hope you'll join us on March 20th. All the details are on the curiousSbuilderPodcast.com. I agree with you. Like, you've been through it, you know how to get through it, and so you just kind of, it's like anything. It's I sort of have been I'm learning more about the Japanese culture, because the more and more I read about, the more and more I just find things I like about it. But
Love
like
it.
Kaizen is a popular thing among corporate America. It's the 1%, right? Like, just get 1% better each day, each year, each month, however you want to look at it. And so, but I think about that like building a career, like the things and the skills that you have developed and have done, same as me, is like they've all added to who you are today. Like, I look back at the builder I was 10, 15 years ago, and I was a really good builder. I mean, I would crush that builder today. It wouldn't even
Sure.
be a contest. And so it's like, it's like, it's so
Right.
there is something really cool about the wisdom that you can, but as long as you
Yeah.
keep on maintaining the curiosity that you don't know it all, because there's so
Right.
much, because back then, if you think back when you were in your mid 20s or 30s, you probably, like all of us, we all think we knew probably more than we did. And now looking back, you're like, just because you know more, you just only realize how little you actually really
Right.
know.
Yes.
So it's like, the more you know, the more you realize how little you know.
Right.
Which is
Yeah.
just sort of ironic.
Well, and I think being open to everybody's ideas, there's always a solution to the problem. And so if everybody is open to the solution and working together, it's not that stressful moment that we all had when we first started out. And if something didn't go right and you poured over it for days. But
Have you guys met Linda Engler from Engler
Yes,
Design?
I love her.
She's amazing. And
she's so great.
she gave me this great quote, and I've said it a lot on the podcast, and it's true. And she talked about how the designer, the builder, the client, and the architect all need to be together, because the project will always fight you. And as long as you stay united, you can defeat the project. And it's like, because something will always come up. And I love this
that.
unified, like,
Yes.
this unified collective. But if this breaks apart, now you have multiple, you are not unified.
Yeah.
And I think of anything that's really gone wrong, it's usually communication is usually the first culprit. Something broke
Yes.
down.
Right.
Yeah.
There's usually, in my opinion, I'm a very optimistic person about people. Like, I don't usually think that there's bad actors. I'm sure there are some, but in my experience, I just choose to believe that most people are good. And so usually it comes to people, somehow communication breaks down. Then there's a loss of trust. And man, once trust is lost, it is very difficult, if not impossible, to get it back with a client relationship or a subcontractor or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
But, at the end of the day, they're trusting us, and we're trusting ourselves too, that we can get through this. And so it's like, because you're going to hit rough water. Like, that's inevitable. My dad owned a business for 30, 40 years, and he used to always tell us, steady at the helm. Like, when it's sunny out, be steady. When it's windy out, be steady. Like, just be steady. And it's hard because life is emotional.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as you're putting all of your effort in to do the right thing, that maintains that trust. And so the project can usually keep going as long as everybody's pushing for that right solution and you're not trying to hide anything. You're just trying to.
Everybody's working together.
Have
Yeah,
you guys
exactly.
ever been fired or let go of a project?
Well, we fired a client. But
I'm like, yeah,
we won't go into the story. on that
Mark,
one.
Oh,
Come on.
Come on! I wanted that.
You want details?
Yes, of course I want details.
See how
This is-
scared she
This
got?
is the real
I'm
stuff.
like, no. but have we been? Yeah, I think it's happened. I'm sure. Nothing in a way where maybe we interviewed with somebody and we started that early process of just like talking, and then maybe the project went away, or I don't know. But I don't think we've never been in a situation where it's been really deep into the process and then things blew up. So, but knock on wood. I mean, I'm knocking on wood right now,
I think
guys.
I mean, the reason
Mark's going deep with us.
Well, no, the reason I ask is because I think to compare industries, like I think it's a lot harder for a builder to fire and to get fired on a project because it gets super messy legally, and also it's not what is best for either party. Where architecture or design, I'm not saying it's any better, but at least there'd be a transition where it'd be cleaner. Like if you've gone far enough in designs, you could be like, someone could build this. Like, is it better if you stay on? Obviously. But this can still be built without you.
Right.
Where like as a builder, like there's all kinds of legalities. Let's say you're a builder and I'm a builder, and let's say halfway through the project you get let go at framing stage. If I'm gonna have a lawyer to write something up, and like I'm not gonna, just for my own protection, even if I knew you were solid builders, I can't warranty your foundation or the framing. Which now this poor third party, well, who knows if the client is innocent in this? It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, everybody loses because that client is going to pay a whole lot more money for, let's say, me in this scenario to come in because I have to exclude, whatever you've done already, and now I have to build it from there. But you think about the time it's going to take me to get caught up. I mean, it's going to take me 3-4 months to really get my mind around it, scheduling. It's just where I'm trying to go with this is just it's almost always better to just see it through, even when it's difficult, especially if you're midstream. I think it's a little bit different if you're early on and you realize like this isn't going well. Like I don't even consider that being really fired or not. It's just like this isn't a good match.
Right.
We recently got let go of a project. One of the first time that's happened in a long time. And, I've already talked about it on the podcast, so I don't need to talk about it again. But long story short, they just, all I can say is in hindsight is just like when I asked them what was the reason, they said communication, which I said, to be honest, that's one of my strengths.
Yeah.
So I'm really surprised.
I was going to say you're great communicator.
I'm really surprised.
Yes.
And so, but I think the underlying thing is they just sensed and just felt it wasn't a good fit. And that's totally okay. And I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I'm not upset.
Yeah.
And like, obviously, would we have wanted to complete the project? Of course.
Yeah.
But
well, and like conversely, would you take on a client if they had fired a builder? Would you go do their project?
I know it's funny is I gotta be careful here, but there's several builders that called me because that client has been asking, and they've all said no because they said, well, we know Mark. And so like that's a huge red flag to them.
Sure.
And saying like, wait a minute, now what is this saying more about Mark, or is this saying more about this client?
Sure.
And I don't know enough of the details to comment beyond
well,
that. But that would be my request.
Small,
like
right. It's a small world,
and
it's a small community, and designers and architects will do the same thing. If there's a client that goes around and say, hey, did you talk to this person? Tell me the background. I mean, what should we look out for?
I've always been super open. I mean, that's just my personality. I don't know if others are, but I think you guys are too. And, I was talking to, it's funny. She's talked about it publicly, so I can say her name, but like Chris from PK and like Colby are really good buddies. And sometimes they'll go round and round, and like the clients don't know that everyone's interviewing sort of everybody. If you're looking at similar projects, right?
Yes.
And so I think builders too, like, we got interviewed the other day, and I call Amy Hendel and Rick, they're just down the street here, and and I said, that's great competition. They're great builders. I told the client, I said, they're amazing. You'll be so happy if you build with them. You'll be really happy if you build with me too. Right. It's really just who do you think is the best fit?
Right.
And they started smiling. They're like, that's exactly what Amy and Rick said. I'm like, I know, because it's how we both feel. I said, you are the one that has the real difficult choice here.
Yeah.
And so the world is super small, and like, we looked at a project maybe 2-3 years ago, and the builder said, you didn't hear it from me, and shared some other things. And I was like, whoa. And I really wanted I really wanted to do this portion of this thing, and it was really neat. And but my alert was on high alert, and I met with them, and I looked at it, and I was like, oh boy, considering the information I know right now, like, I was like, I just said, I'm really too busy. We're over our capacity. We can't handle this right now. And it's hard for me to say that because it's not that it wasn't true, but it was really a Minnesota polite, like, I mean, what am I going to tell them? Like, no. Yeah. Like, it just doesn't
So is that based
right.
on experience? Like, have you taken on a project that you had, that there were red flags, and then you took it on anyways, and then you're like, darn it.
One in particular. I mean, the worst of my career by far.
Oh, gosh.
But it had nothing to do with other builders. I wish, no other builder. I mean, hindsight's 2020. It's easy to look back 3-4 years ago and be like, oh, time reveals so many things.
But there's value in that, and there's a learning lesson in that, and that's why this builder of today would crush the builder 20 years
That's right.
ago.
Yeah.
So we always see the silver linings through everything, whether it's a client that wasn't a good fit with another firm and we took them on, or if somebody felt like we weren't a good fit for them and they went somewhere else. Like, there's always a silver lining and a takeaway from that we can use going forward to the next project and the next client.
I think trust your instincts.
Yeah.
Because have you guys read any of Malcolm Gladwell's stuff, like Blink? Or
Yeah, I read.
Have you?
I did read one book, but it was
Jeremy
a long
reads more
time
than
ago.
I do.
The short version of Blink essentially is like, well, the story that I liked the best was there was like, I'll butcher it, but it's paraphrasing it. It was like they had like 6 people interviewing, let's say Sara, and they got 6 seconds with her. And then they had another 6 people that got to interview for an hour. They all chose to hire, so let's just say there's 20 Saras. They all chose this Sara. One did the hour interviews and the other one did 6 seconds. The point of the 6-second ones is like your instinct told you all the things that they needed in an hour to sort of figure out. Sure. And so like sometimes you meet, and I'm not saying that it's kind of like that old adage, right? Don't judge a book by its cover. But guess what? I guarantee if you looked at artwork on books when you go buy a book, like you're probably tempted to like go pick up the book that looks really it attracts you to it. Either the title, the naming, whatever. Like we are physical people that are drawn to things that are unique. Marketing works on us extremely well, especially if you touch it. And so it's like, to lie to yourself and say that doesn't matter is, well, you're lying.
Right. Yeah.
And so it does matter. So trust yourself. And if your little inner voice is saying, run. Yeah. Anyway.
I love that. And it's great to be part of an architecture and design community where you can be honest and with your colleagues from other companies and other firms, and nobody's trying to hide anything because they're trying to compete. You can ask the questions and be open. And I've had one of my best friends out in Seattle. She has her own business, and it's beautiful because she has sent me a 72-point font run in the past. So when you say run, you're like, what do you think about this or that? And you can bounce stuff off of each other but it's been great to have that relationship. And we've been forging those relationships here in Minnesota with the local community too. And I love it. It's fabulous.
Yeah, I mean, we've become pretty good friends with a couple of other offices that we often compete with. Yeah. I mean, our mentality is, they do good work, and you can't win every project.
Yeah,
it's
like what you said with the guys down the street. Yeah.
So it's good to kind of cheer each other on, and then also keep engaging with the general community, learn from them, their creative process, see what they're up to, and.
That's why your builder collectives are so awesome. Yeah. I interrupt Jeremy a lot. That's why that's why he puts up with me. But maybe that's not why. I don't know why you put up with me.
Nah.
But no, that's why the collectives are so cool, because we all sit around and talk about open, honest questions that nobody wants to share because they're not sure if it's.
You touched on it. I mean, the whole point is, you went to school for architecture, right? That doesn't necessarily make you a good entrepreneur. You had to learn that all on your own too.
Right.
And we don't have another hour to go through all that, but I mean, that's really what the nature of what this is. And what attracts me to, I just love people, number one. But number two, I love people's stories. And I love hearing how they evolve and how, what can I learn from the relationship, or how you interact with your clients or each other, or you just don't know what sharing the story, like the ripple effect it'll have on someone else's life. And even if no one else listened to, let's say, this episode, it wouldn't matter because we've just exchanged ideas and thoughts that affect each other. And so I think to me, that I get so much energy and creativity out of this format, but also the collectives were born because of that. Yeah. It's I want to accelerate not only conversations, let's say coffee, but because that's what coffee is, right? But now this is a more dedicated format. But then the collectives are like, well, how about we get a group of 20 to 30 entrepreneurs together, break them up in groups of 9 and talk about like just marketing, or because we know how to do other things, architecture, building in my case, and not that we can't get better at it, but like, what about running a business? Who's teaching us, and how are we learning? How are you implementing AI? How are you? Because that's, I think, tomorrow's topic is AI. So we have an architect collective tomorrow, and it's like, okay, well, we're going to run through all different ways, and we have so much to learn from each other.
Yeah. What is I've got a question for you. Which architect collective did you experience the most wild engagement from the people that were there?
So for the
architects who were
audience
there?
that isn't in Minnesota, we have a collective where we have a builder collective, a designer collective, and an architect collective. I think architects, we have, I think, maybe 14 that are in the collective. The reason it's hard to answer your question is I'm trying to build a community where they come for the season, not for a specific episode.
Okay.
And so that's what makes that one hard, because some people look at the roster and say like, oh, I only want to come to the one on AI, or I only want to come on to the one of hospitality. But it's really meant for two things. One is for the continuity.
Okay.
And then the second is the community. Like, my greatest joy would be that the architects or the builders or the designers that are in their respective groups talk about all these ideas, learn from it, but then would forge. It's another opportunity for, you already mentioned, you have a couple other architecture firms that you become friendly with, and like, hey, I have questions for it. Like, I want that group to be kind of like their graduating class of like, that's who they connect with. Hey, I've got a question. Like, I want it to keep on. I just want people to be open, to be curious. And so I couldn't say like there's one that had. I think they've all been about the same attended. So I want attendance, but I think tomorrow's AI one will be, because anyone, if the thing that I find sort of ironic about all of them is that regardless of which one you come to, you will get value every time.
Sure.
Because
Absolutely.
the people bring the value.
Yeah.
It's not me.
Yeah.
It's the people.
Right.
And so, and then the second thing is like, I love it when, if people were to think like, they never say this because people like self-select. You don't go to the collective if you think you know it all, because you why would you go?
Right.
And so the people that show up are curious-minded and they want to know more. But like AI in particular, like the fact that's not like maxed full. Who in the world is an expert in AI? The answer is nobody.
Exactly.
But honestly, I think it's true of all the topics. It's just that AI is easy for us to all understand that we're not an expert. But honestly, are any of us an expert in anything? I know I'm not.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
So I can't. It's hard. I don't know how to answer the question, frankly.
So there haven't been any Jerry Springer moments happening at these collectives.
I remember Jerry Springer, but I don't remember what would be a Jerry Springer moment.
I'm still waiting for somebody to
Fist
come behind that curtain.
fights, people going crazy at each other, pulling hair.
No.
I'm just
no.
kidding.
It's mostly laughter. They come out really refreshed and energized, new ideas, and then I see people, getting together. That's the part that.
Well, I loved when I went to one, and I haven't had a chance to go to a lot of them, but when I went to,
you went to the branding one at Molly Windmillers.
And one thing that you brought forward at that one, which I never really thought about, and maybe my brain just started going off topic and dreaming while I was supposed to be focusing on something else. But I started writing down our list of clients and kind of who's attracted to hiring us. What is do we have a certain client type? What's happening here? And so that right there led me to some discoveries on not necessarily who we're marketing towards, but who's responding to whatever we're doing, which we're still trying to figure out.
I mean, that one is cool because there's two ways to look at it. One is, what do you want? Someone at one time said, I think architects have always been light years ahead of builders in general. I think builders are now catching up because they're finally understanding a little bit more about marketing. But one of them is like, I used to always, like when I was first, I would post every single picture of every single home like even the stuff that you shouldn't be showing pictures of, like everything, like more is better. And I've always appreciated architects that, like, they'll show like 4 photos or 1 photo with like a description. And it's just like, you always want more. And it used to just frustrate me. It was like, why don't they give me more? But now I realize like it's actually really smart, because that is your currency, and it's how you get people to say, hey, I'd love to know more about that house. Could you tell me more?
This is an ongoing discussion with Sara and I about how much we show on our website.
Yeah.
We're always like, oh, I don't know about this picture, and should we pull back? Actually, I think we probably show maybe more, at least in my mind, we probably show more than we should.
Yeah.
But
Jeremy would love it if it were down to just like 5 photos.
Well, I don't know about that much, but
I'm just kidding.
I like going to websites and seeing everything too. I think on our end, for me, it's more about not showing like the more catered shots where I feel like we really succeeded in that project. And there's some spaces. In reality, every room in the house is never perfect. We try to get there. There's always one that, like my old boss would say, if the design didn't quite work out the way he wanted it to, maybe sometimes not because of him, he would just say, "I'm just not going to go in that room." That was his mantra. And
we pare down the photos, and then the other day we saw a photo pop up on Colby's
yeah, that's true.
website.
Yeah.
And Jeremy's like, "Why isn't that photo on our website?" And I'm like, "Because you made me only show like 5 photos." So, but no, it's true. You've touched on that. I think architects and designers are pretty good at just showing a little bit of what they want, and
It's like a
and
tease.
like contractors conversely are notorious for having horrible websites.
And horrible photos.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, I
horrible
look-
branding.
or just no
Oh,
website.
horrible. I mean, because no one told you about it. Like, you didn't think that was something you had to do when you're young or whenever.
Right.
And then, I remember early on, early on, like in my early 20s, I mean, I would take photos of the home vacant because I didn't work with interior designers. I didn't work with architects. So it's like, again, I've obviously progressed a lot since then. But like, I would take a picture of like empty rooms.
Right.
Like, who wants to go to an empty room? Like, I mean, now I look back, I'm like, oh boy. I mean, you can't hardly even. I don't think you can find
Yeah.
those photos. I've like snuffed them out.
Oh, that's hilarious. But no, it's true. It's a building process. I mean, we took photos of every project back in when we started in 2008, and then eventually some of those come off the website
Yes.
eventually.
Yep.
But you need to have something for somebody to look at so they can hire you for the next job. So anybody who's starting out on your own right now, and new firms, invest the time and money to take photos of your work and get it up on the website.
I've got a great story without saying who it is because they're actually quite famous. But long story short, they had such a powerful brand and they had such powerful imagery, but they actually had never built a new home. They'd built like 2. And I always thought they'd been in business for decades. And they had done mostly like commercial and remodeling, and they had the chops to do it. That was not, I mean, incredible operator. But my point is, storytelling and branding can tell the story that you want to tell.
Sure.
And if you can control the narrative, like there's no really limit to if that's your goal, like whatever you're trying to attract. And, it's kind of like if you're fishing, I'm not much of a fisherman, but if you're fishing for a muskie, like, you have a muskie lure, it's pretty big.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it depends on, I think, putting work out there that you want to attract.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know plenty of builders that don't market that they remodeled, even in our community, and they do lots of remodeling, but they're like, that's just not something they actively market.
Yeah.
Because that's not their idea. No, they'll do it, but it's not their bread and butter. And then there are some that they just cater specifically to remodeling or whatever it is. I think honestly, whatever your story is, whatever you're interested in, you can create a brand and attract the people for it. There's a story for it. The question is like, do you know what you want?
Yeah. Right.
And that takes a little time to figure out.
Yeah.
Does. I mean, we've kind of always known where we wanted to get to, and we had to. Well, I shouldn't say we had. We worked on a lot of projects in the past where maybe it wasn't what we wanted to work forever on, but we took on those early projects. Like, actually, we're kind of doing that right now with our commercial work. We do have some great projects right now that we're really proud of, but it took a while
on the commercial side.
on the commercial side.
Yeah.
And
But you've done a little grocery store, for example,
well,
right? We're not going to take pictures.
Yeah, we're
of
not
going to
take pictures of it, and it was just it was more of a permitting project, and we've done a number of those. But I want to keep doing those because I'd like our company to be more than just residential work. It would be nice to have a nice mix of projects and just to keep those creative juices flowing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I guess my background, the last company I worked with, they had that nice mix. I mentioned I worked on a school. I worked in a large commercial building, and I worked on residential all at the same time. It was so fun to jump between those different types of projects.
So you had mentioned 50-50, in-state, out-of-state. What percentage of your overall work is commercial versus residential?
Right now, it's probably about 10 to 15%, depending on the year.
Yeah.
So not much.
I was going to say 80-20.
20, I guess. I mean, I never do the math.
I know.
but
That's more just a feeling.
Yeah. I do the invoicing, so I know.
Yeah, she's like, it's 20. That's pretty funny. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, too, like to put a bow on top of what you said about getting to where we're at. But we also are in a great spot right now, too, because we finally have like this beautiful team that we're working with, and we love our team. They're so amazing, and they're all special in their own unique way, and they make it so that we don't have to work till 3 a.m. every night. And so we have more time for ourselves in the evenings, less stress, because we know that they care about what they're doing and they're invested, and so anyways, just getting to this point where we're at right now is just so fabulous. Like, we couldn't be more blessed and just grateful. So yeah.
Tell me about the Yes House.
The Yes House.
Yeah, I just think it's I didn't read the whole story behind it, but you have a Yes House project. I'd love to know more.
Yeah. That one came to us through friends of friends and local connections. But that one, the reason why it was the Yes House was just because the clients were so absolutely fabulous on just being involved, being excited about the process, and being open-minded to ideas. And also trusting us to present an idea. And then they said, okay, yeah, let's do that. So it turned out so amazing. And it was just because of the openness and the positive yes attitude about it all. Did you ever hear the story about how John Lennon met Yoko Ono?
No.
She had an art installation and he climbed up on a ladder and there was a magnifying glass just taped to the ceiling. And so he climbed up on the ladder and he grabs the magnifying glass and he holds it up to the ceiling. And I think it said yes. I think it just said yes. So that, and I think I could be wrong. You might get a lot of phone calls or hate mail if I'm wrong. But that's the story that I remember about how
you have to have a lot of listeners first.
But anyways, I just love that positive attitude and spirit. And that's what the clients brought to their house and their project. And I don't even know if they knew what we saw their project could be. And they did. And just by saying yes to everything, it just became its own Misa. And so it was the Yes House. It's beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah.
What was really great about the project too is the house was an existing house, and at the very early stages, they were debating how much work they really wanted to do on it, and so we gave them 3 schemes. One was kind of just minor implementations to improve the layout and some updates to the exterior. The second was more involved, maybe taking off the garage and rethinking that whole thing. And the third was just almost starting over, which is and it ended up the direction we ended up going. Mm-hmm. But we still were incorporating a part of this existing house into the project. So it became this kind of really meld of, we don't even know what to call it because it's really, I feel like it's a new build.
We call it a renovation and
addition.
But it was
slash new building. I don't know.
Fancy house.
Yeah, but it just it's funny if we showed you a picture of what it used to look like, you'd be no way. Like it was a total transformation. It went from a more kind of typical suburban house to this really sleek, modern design.
Yeah.
But what's nice is that even built into the new modern design, you can still see the bones of the old part of the house. So there's still a history that's still preserved there.
But there's like complexities in the design and complexities in the house. There's a lot of steel in the house. The steel had to get erected. It was happening during COVID. Yeah. So you remember those delays and everything. But yet the spirit and the attitude was still yes. So it could have gone so horribly wrong in many different ways. But with the clients just being on board and being like, okay, sure. You want to erect a steel beam in my basement and then do a cantilever on top of a cantilever? Yes, let's do it. It's just, it's great. We were so lucky.
And yeah, I mean, having a client say it, having the team also be open to it as well, right? I mean, it's like, it's funny. I feel like a big part of my job now is like a coach or a cheerleader, like the temperament. I'm probably a lot of times now I find myself less involved in the details, which is just fine. I find that I'm probably better off as the coach, or if the client is sort of down, how do we lift them up and make, because it is a longer process. It's we're used to this because we've been doing this for decades. Client, this is usually their first time that they've done it. And so how do we, set expectations? If they're used to sprinting, and this is an ultra marathon, I mean, this is going to take a long time. They really got to slow down the pace and expectations. One of my favorite stories, and I tell it a lot to clients, is I think his name was Mac. He was 7 years old, and we built a home for his mom and dad over in Chaska here. In fact, it was my first artisan home on a lake I grew up on Lake Bavaria, and it was a Monday. And he came to the job site with his mom and dad, Dan and Jackie. And they said, in fact, when I drop off their Christmas present, I'll see if I can tell him this story, because he's probably a teenager. He probably think it's funny, or he won't want to talk to me. We'll see. And anyway, I said, he said, Mr. Mark, he said, how long is it going to take to build this house? I think I had a daughter at this time. I think I had like a 1-year-old or whatever. So I had enough experience to know that this little kid was like, probably didn't grasp time very well.
Oh.
And I said, Mac, what is the biggest stretch of time that you can think of? And that's how long it's going to take for me to finish your house. He's like, oh man. He's like, I have to wait till Friday. And so it was the sweetest little thing, right? You know, sorry, buddy, it's actually a year. But yeah, you know, the biggest stretch of time that he could think of, and like right now I have a little 5.5-year-old, and like time is like, they get their days so jumbled up. It's just really quite endearing. It reminds me a little bit as I learned so much from my kids, but it's like to be more present in the moment.
Yeah.
And so I can always use a reminder to do a better job of it. But I love how present children are. Like, Dad, will you play with me right now?
Yeah.
Like, not tomorrow, not in an hour, but like, what are you doing right now? And it's hard as business owners. Like, that's really hard because it's hard, you know, to come home and it's like you're going 1,000 and it's like, okay, put on the dad mom hat, like, you know, and like be present for the kids. And the one thing I would say to be somewhat gentle on ourselves is like, I think it's a great opportunity for kids to see how a business is run. And like, have you guys had those kinds of, because your kids are teenage, you have a couple of teenagers?
Yeah, 15-year-old and our twins are 13.
How have they sort of interacted with your company, or sort of either seen the good, bad, and ugly, and what is their reaction to it? And how do you look at it as parents looking the other way? Like, oh man, did we do a good thing or a bad thing here?
Yeah.
I mean, I think
that's a good question.
Ethan definitely, our 13-year-old twin, he's definitely really intrigued by what we do. Always kind of has been. I remember when he was in preschool, he was supposed to do a drawing that illustrated who he was. And it ended up being a set of plans of our house and elevations, and he drew them down to the detail. I was so impressed. I was like, where did this come from? So clearly he was kind of seeing what we were doing and that kind of replicating it. And he talks about being an architect, and so we're encouraging it if he wants to.
But I mean, in terms of like, do they see us working all the time?
Yeah, they do.
We had Jonah, our 15-year-old, come in, and we were gonna have him do more work for us this summer, but instead he did a little bit of work, but we didn't have time to sit down and teach him how to do more work. That being said, he got a little taste of it, got a taste of going into mom and dad's office and seeing what they're doing. But they see the behind the scenes where we are up till 3 a.m. working, or 3 a.m. arguing about a design, or going out like to the Midwest Design Awards last night and coming home with, a little glass trophy. So they see all aspects and facets and sides of it. And I think they're all very smart. And so it'll be interesting to see how they process that and what they want to do moving on when they're older. But I do respect, I've met a lot of builders who have children that go into building, and they usually encourage them to go work somewhere else first before they ever come and work for dad or mom. So I think that's interesting, and I've seen my own bosses do that with their children who've gone into architecture too.
I've seen that a lot. I think it was episode 5. I interviewed Mark Scheer from Scheer Brothers, and 3 years ago now, and and he told me, and I think it's like very common in multi-generational family companies, and in their company you had to go work I think like 3 to 5 years in another company and get a major promotion before you could come back and work for the family company. And it's genius. I remember hearing it being like, well, that's an amazing idea, just because obviously it fosters new ideas, creativity, it helps avoid nepotism, and just like, you want to be something. That being said, it's like, I've often, early in my career, I was like, man, I sure hope my kids never want to get into building, because it's like, it can be real hard sometimes too. And now I'm like, actually, you know what? If I just wanted to do whatever they're passionate about, and if it is building, there's part of me that's like, oh boy, I have to rethink my exit strategy, because like, I don't want to work forever.
Right,
I'm not sure I have enough time for them to go work for 5 years somewhere else. Like, I don't want to be working my 60s and 70s. So it's like, wait a minute, I'm going to have to rethink about like how that works. But I think it's just a good idea for the kids to gain that experience. I just asked because my kids are younger than yours. And so it's kind of like, that's one thing with the podcast. I get to kind of steer some of the questions and like, okay, what am I interested in?
Right.
You guys,
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I definitely feel like the kids, they see us working hard, and we see that at, in their school performance. I think they understand the value of working hard will give get you to where you need to be.
Mhm.
Other than maybe doing chores, which they still struggle at our house.
Well, they're pretty good at that too.
Well,
We're
I mean,
lucky.
They are, but we
Yeah.
really have to push them. They don't just do it on their own. But maybe that's just natural, I guess. But
Yeah.
at their age.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll have a childhood podcast later. That would
Yeah.
actually be really fun. We'll talk about allowances,
Oh my God.
allowances and
Wow.
chores and like, you know.
Yeah, hilarious.
My daughter came to me the other day. She goes, "Dad, how can I earn some extra money? Because I'd like to do this." And I was like, I like the idea that she came to me saying, "How can I earn the money?" And so like
Yeah.
I want to find a way to like reward that, because that's that
Yeah.
entrepreneurial spark. Like she
Sure.
sees like, okay, if I want something, then I need to figure out a way to get it. And so it's like,
Yeah.
anyway, I'm not sure what I'm going to tell her yet.
Oh my gosh. I know that'll be tricky.
So
It's funny because some kids are motivated by money and other kids are not. And we have a mixed bag in our household where some care about money and others do not.
Yeah, one of our kids, we find their money lying all over the place. And we're like, you gotta, this is bad.
I know. I was cleaning out the room and there's like cash over here and a gift card over there.
This is $20.
Yeah.
What I give for $20 back when I
So
was their
I
age.
suppose we're failing on that end. We need to teach our kids more about the value.
we'll do a childhood podcast. Actually, that would actually be a fairly interesting one. Well, to respect your time in the audiences, we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, thank you.
So here's your chance to ask
boy.
what question would you like to ask the next guest? Can be anything.
I don't know.
You can go at them hard. You could just rough them up, whatever you want, or easy ball, whatever's on your mind.
Oh my God. Who's the next guest?
I can't tell you.
You can't tell
That's
us.
cheating.
It could be anybody.
Um,
Oh, man,
I guess I might go, what is your one that got away? And it could
Good.
be a project, it could be a person, it could be a place, place, or thing.
That's a good one.
All right. Well, you got to tune in next week to find out the
my
answer to this one.
God. Okay.
Thanks for coming on the Curious Builder podcast.
Thank
thank-
you.
thank you
You're
so much.
awesome. We are so honored. Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Appreciate
it.
it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Curious Builder podcast. If you like this episode, do us a favor. Share it with 3 other business owners. The best way that we can spread what we're doing is by word of mouth, and with your help, we can continue to help other curious builders expand their business. Please share it with your friends, like and review online, and thanks again for tuning in.